Welcome back, Mando.
Oh, greetings, Bucketheads. Mavar Tagar. Welcome to our 384th Boonta blasting and bashing episode of MandoVision. And I am your host, Narguy Tom. Thank you so much for checking out this small independent Star Wars podcast. We're so glad you're here. Make sure you're finding us on those socials at Mando_Vision on X and Insta. You can email the show, MandoVisionTom@gmail.com. Go ahead, like, subscribe, follow, and share this show with all the Mandalorians in your covert. All right, Bucketheads, we are back for another episode of our vintage Star Wars rewatch of Star Wars Droids from the 1985, a year in which I was alive and breathing, and watching the show on Saturday mornings on the ABC. So yes, we are going way back into the past, and it has been very, very interesting, very, very illuminating. A lot of progress in the world of Star Wars animation since 1985. Obviously, like, everything's kind of in-house now with Lucasfilm having their own animators and doing their own thing. But not so much in 1985. This was farmed out to a studio who did the art. We talked about that a lot in our first episode, doing Droids. We paid more attention to that in that episode. So if you want to go back and find that, we talked about it a little bit more at length. But again, I bring it up because Star Wars animation is in the news right now, and deservedly so. One piece of animation is from in-house, in Lucasfilm in-house. And then one is another piece of animation that is from another studio. I am, of course, referring to the Emmy nominations that came out last week, with which Star Wars Visions Volume 3 had an episode nominated for an Emmy. Let me see if I got the specifics on that. Outstanding Animated Program for the episode Black in Star Wars Visions Volume 3. And Star Wars Maul Shadow Lord was nominated for Outstanding Sound Editing for Chapter 10, The Dark Lord. And I think we can all agree that the sound editing in that episode was phenomenal. I don't have in front of me like who they're up against, just because like I don't really. We'll talk more about that down the road. I'm excited that some Star Wars got some nominations. We kind of went down this road with Andor, a show that I thought should have won every award. So I don't want to get too hyped right now on Star Wars getting nominated for some Emmys yet again. But it's very exciting. It's very neat, and I wish the best of luck to Star Wars to deliver. I'm sure they're up against some very worthy competition as well. And we'll just see how it goes. Again, good luck to you. Let's go ahead and turn our attention now to what we're here for the day, which is Star Wars Droids. We have gotten to the episode. I teased it last week. If you know your droids, then you know this one was coming, because this is the episode that features Boba Fett. And to my recollection, the only character from the films who will grace us throughout the course of the series. Now, I could be mistaken, because I don't remember much of anything from the show. I have not seen it since 1985. But hey, they do step up. Boba Fett's second appearance in animation here is much different than his first, even though he's voiced by the same guy. They added more of like a helmet effect, and while he is a bit more verbose than we were used to in Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, it's still not a lot of speaking parts for him. But Boba Fett does play a big role in the show. He's not just there to provide a link to the films. There is more for Boba to do in this episode. So, without further ado, I think we're going to go ahead and get started and talk about it, which means it's time to give credit where credit's due. And you know what that means. Let's do it. All right. This is Star Wars Droids, Season 1, Episode 4, A Race to the Finish. Original air date September 28th, 1985. The plot for this week's episode: after escaping from the Fromm gang, the Sand Sloth crash lands in time for the Boonta speeder race. Cease Fromm hires bounty hunter Boba Fett to capture the racers. The episode is written once again by Peter Sauter, directed by Ken Stevenson. Our cast for the week: Anthony Daniels is, of course, C-3PO. R2-D2 is, of course, himself. We have Long John Baldry, Donnie Burns, Leslie Donaldson, Maurice Godin, Graham Haley, Dan Hennessy, Michael Kirby, Ken Pogue, Andrew Sabiston, and Toby Tarnow. All right, friends, it's time to get into it. You know what that means. I'm saying time a lot, friends. I apologize. We're off to a little bit of a not as smooth as we like start on the episode. But it's time. Strap on your buckets. Let's go.
Get out of here. We'll hold them off.
You're going to have to relocate the covert.
This is the way.
This is the way.
So picking up where we left off from last week, the Fromm gang has lost the Trigon. The Trigon is long gone. And the Fromm base, also long gone. So the Fromms, it appears the Fromm gang is now reduced to Size Fromm, Tig Fromm, and Vlix. And they are looking for a little revenge on the speeder racers, Thal and Jord and Kia, who have thwarted their plans at every turn since the start of the show. So they are pursuing our friends, who are, again, in transit, this time to Boonta, for the speeder race that we heard about long, long ago in season 1, or in episode 1, pardon me. And yes, so the Fromm gang arrives in their beat up knockoff of a Lambda class shuttle. And R2 and C-3PO are once again on the hull, doing repairs, making things work. The White Witch is strapped to the hull, and the Fromm gang arrives to retaliate. And let's be clear, the Fromms have proven themselves to be, again, a typical 80s kind of cartoon villain. They're not good at their jobs. They're not good at what they do. They make a lot of threats. And to correct myself from earlier, I sort of thought, again, things are unclear. It's an 80s cartoon for children. There's not a lot of information being given all willy-nilly, not a lot of big exposition. So I was rather surprised this week when Size Fromm admits that the Trigon was to help him gain control over all the gangs of the galaxy. Don't know how that would have worked, but I suppose it was like him having a Death Star-like weapon at his disposal, something he could send to a planet and obliterate a gang. Sure, why not? Hey, sure. But regardless, the Trigon is gone, and it's time for vengeance. Tig is on the guns. He gets some shots in, but our heroes, with the help of R2-D2, who is able to access a panel to do a manual outside the system hyperdrive activation, launches them to safety. Tig Fromm, meanwhile, hits some button, and they go to hyperspace backwards. It was very strange. It was a strange sequence. It's fine. But our heroes get to Boonta. They crash on the surface in a bit of a scrapyard. And I can't help it. Maybe it's just was the 80s in me. I immediately thought of the junk planet from the Transformers movie. And there you go. Which is where we encounter Proto-1, a droid who has serviced himself, if you will. And he was left on the scrap pile by his masters, by his makers, and he repaired himself and made himself sort of the master of this scrapyard. And he says that he can repair their ship, so that's taken care of. But meanwhile, in the crash, in the battle with the Fromms, Jord has taken a bad bump, and Jord was scheduled to be the racer of the White Witch at the Boonta Classic. But with his bum wing, that's not going to happen anymore. So Thal Jobin, the good-looking, dashing Thal Jobin, will have to be the hero once again. Surprise, surprise. So, Meanwhile, R2 and C3PO are arguing a lot in this episode. There's a lot of back and forth, more than the usual from them. I feel like C3PO has some resentment building towards his pal. And so when they get to Boonta, C3PO doesn't trust Proto One for some reason, and he doesn't like that Proto One and R2D2 seem to hit it off, and he warns R2 at one point, like, don't trust strange droids. You know, we're judged by the company that we keep. So C3PO very much looking down his nose at Proto One and the relationship that he is developing with R2D2. So they go to take Jord to a medical station to get that wing looked at, get that bum arm tended to, and we end up yet again in a garage. Eventually, we find out that C3PO has befriended another protocol-esque droid in the form of BL-17. And BL-17 is going to get these guys into another garage. A carry-out from basically every episode is that at some point, our heroes end up in a garage to work on the White Witch, and something bad will happen. Now, I think it's before this. We cut to the Fromm gang, also on Boonta now, and we see Seiss Fromm talking to a mysterious figure in the shadows, and taking a look like, who is that strange character that we can't see? But we know. We know who it is. It is, of course, revealed to be Boba Fett. And we find out that Boba Fett is already working on a scheme to catch these guys. To catch the speeder racers that Seiss Fromm wants to hire him to go after. And we find out that Seiss Fromm is wanted by Jabba the Hutt. Jabba, we are informed via Boba Fett, Jabba the Hutt wants Seiss Fromm collected for reward. But Boba Fett's not going to do that, because Boba Fett owes Seiss Fromm a favor. What's that favor? We don't know. We're not sure what happened. We don't know their past history. We don't get into that. But it explains why Boba Fett doesn't just immediately take him to Jabba the Hutt, who, by all accounts, we know is Boba's main source of income at this point in our knowledge of Boba Fett's history. But Boba's, like I said, Boba's got a plan, and I think we all very immediately connect the dots to it being BL-17, taking them, luring them into a garage far removed where they can then control events, and BL-17 lures C-3PO out, and they're gonna gas Kia and there's a lot going on, but there's a gas leak. R2 has to save the day. BL-17's closed the doors. He smashed everything. And then he's going to try and get the drop on C-3PO. And then Proto comes and saves the day, because I guess they have a feud. BL-17 and Proto have history. A lot of back and forth. Also in the garage, Tig and Vlix end up there. They plant a thermal detonator on the White Witch. And again, antics. Back and forth. Very 80s. Then this thermal detonator is a calculated thermal detonator. It won't go off until the 10th lap of the Boonta race. And then very, very quickly, we just end up in the Boonta race. We have Thal Jobin flying the White Witch, and apparently you just enter. You just show up and you race, because Boba Fett's got a speeder too. The episode moves quick. A lot going on. We end up in the Boonta race, which it's not like the pod race that we saw in episode 1 at all. They're in like these tubes, these sort of like pneumatic tubes, racing around, and Boba Fett's always in hot pursuit. I don't know how you win this race, because if you're in this tube, you can't really pass anybody. Though perhaps the tubes are bigger than we are led to believe via the series. I don't know. But Boba Fett's not there to win the race. He's just got a speeder. He's like grappling hooking with the White Witch, and all these different things are going on. There's all these different moves and things happening, and eventually, somehow, some way, as Tig Fromm breathlessly awaits the 10th lap to see the White Witch and Thal Jobin explode, well, something's changed. Like the exhaust ports of Boba Fett's speeder pull stuff off of the White Witch, including the thermal detonator, which allows Thal Jobin to win the race, and Boba Fett to have to fly out of the tunnel via the tube via his jetpack and watch his speeder explode. Our heroes win the race. They are then offered a job by, what's this guy's name? Zebulon Dak is this speeder designer engineer guy who hires them to design and build racers. And everything seems so great. Like, all our heroes are done. It's great. The From gang tries one last time to get the drop on them, but now Boba Fett's mad. He's lost BL-17 because Proto 1 put him out of business. He's lost his speeder because the thermal detonator that Tig From planted went boom boom on his ship. And now Boba Fett's decided, you know what? I paid you back, and now you guys suck, and I'm going to take you in and collect the reward the Jabba is offering for you myself. And thus eliminating the threat of the From gang to Thal, Jord, and Kia. So Boba Fett plays a massive role in wrapping this up and keeping our heroes safe by then flipping on the Froms and turning them in for the reward himself. So our heroes are going to go work for Zebulon Dak. Everything seems all good, except we find out, and the droids find out via eavesdropping, not very nice of the droids, that if they go work for Zebulon Dak, it would require the droids to have their memories wiped to get kind of like reprogrammed, I suppose, as some sort of espionage protocol to make sure that droids aren't stealing information or could be used to harm the companies in any way possible. But Kia, Jord, and Thal are like, no, we're not going to do that because we like R2 and 3PO for who they are. So we wouldn't want to see them reprogrammed. So we're not going to take the job with Zebulon Dak, even though it's all we've dreamed about and all we've talked about it, because we've become a family. Gosh darn it. And we're going to protect that family. So hearing this, R2 and C-3PO make the hard choice. They can't let their friends / masters give up their dreams just to stay with them. So R2 and 3PO escape. They put themselves in an escape pod. They jump from the ship. And then our friends rocket into hyperspace, leaving them behind unknowingly. Unbeknownst to them, they leave R2 and 3PO behind. And we await the next adventure. Our heroes are floating through space, but I'm sure they'll get picked up at some point because there's more of this series left, so they have to. But yeah, that concludes the From Gang arc, the first arc of the show, 4 episodes in. And it's wrapped up in a pretty nice, neat little bow. So now we're on to a new adventure with new quote-unquote masters. Don't like that term, but that's okay. It's the 80s. They didn't know any better. So how does this episode fare? I mean, I suppose as the concluding story to the From Gang, it's very solid. It's very entertaining in the sense that Boba Fett's there. But like a lot of this series, things happen very quickly. Things happen very kind of randomly. There's not a lot of, I don't know. I don't want to imply that things aren't thought out, but things just happen quickly and randomly in a sense. But it's organized to support the story they're trying to tell in the time frame they are allotted to. And again, this is storytelling for children of the 80s who were sitting there in front of their TVs with their action figures playing what they were seeing on the screen. So I think by and large, this episode works very, very well. And I'm actually going to give it the highest ranking of the show so far. I'm going to give it 7 buckets. 7 buckets. It's yeah, it is what it is. Let's be perfectly honest. But what it is it's not bad. You know, again, it moves fast, it moves quickly. We go boom, 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 boom. Boba Fett. And then on to the next thing. So yeah, solid enough, and I'm here for it. So 7 buckets to conclude the first arc of Star Wars Droids in our vintage Star Wars rewatch of the animated series known as Droids. A little side note, I am continuing my exploration of reading the comic books. I am reading the Dark Horse series and the original Marvel 80s series of Droids kind of concurrently with each other. And it's slow going. The Marvel one more slowly than the other because Marvel comics in the early to mid 80s were written in a very expository fashion, which leads to a lot of needless dialogue or needlessness. So a little bit slow going on that, but we'll have more of a conversation about that when I get those wrapped up, probably around the same time I get this show wrapped up, doing our rewatch. Moving ahead, again, we are only in the middle of July right now, but I do want to sort of foreshadow a little bit. I do believe that starting in August, we will be able to be doing a few more episodes per month. I do believe. I think we're going to be able to do our Droids rewatch and our Ninth Jedi watch at the same time. Again, I'll drop the word concurrently. I think that's going to shake out. I have a change in my schedule coming up that I think will allow for this. I do have to sort of see when those episodes of Ninth Jedi are dropping. That's sort of the X factor in this whole thing. So once I look a little bit more closely into that, we will make plans to probably do 2 episodes a week. So that's exciting. I'm excited for that. I hope you guys are excited for that. But that being said, I think that's about it for the podcast for today. So thank you guys for being here. As always, I appreciate everyone who takes the time to download, share, stream, listen, the whole thing. Thank you all from the bottom of my heart. Buckethead Nation continues to be the best supporters on the internets. And I truly appreciate every single one of you who is here and count yourself as part of Buckethead Nation. Go out there. Be great Star Wars fans, kind, supportive, respectful, understanding, tolerant, patient, and awesome. If you happen to be coming to San Diego for Comic-Con, please reach out. I won't be there, at least not for a lot of it, but I will be there eventually. So drop me a line if you're in the area. We'll see what we can do. Otherwise, we'll be back next week for another episode of our vintage Star Wars Droids rewatch. So another reminder, this is the MandoVision podcast. I am your host, Nargai Tom. Check us out on the socials. It's at Mando_Vision on X and Insta MandoVision at Blue Sky. Of course, you can email the show, MandoVisionTom@gmail.com. Like, subscribe, follow, and share with all the Mandalorians in your covert. And remember, this podcast can only end one way. This is the way.
This is the way.
This is the way. This is the way.
I suppose you'll be heading out.
I'm not.
You should.
It's against the creed. I gave you my word. I'm with you until we both fall.
You really buy into that bantha fodder?
I do.
Good.
Admiral, we have enemy ships in Sector 47.
It's a trap!